Mama, what if the road to freedom isn't straight? Join me today while I talk with Desiree, a mama who built success, walked away, and is finding her way back with purpose and peace. Hey, mamas, welcome back to Mamas Building Businesses. I'm really excited about the conversation we're going to have today with Desiree. Des, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, you and I have been friends on social media for a really long time, I think years. I think probably since
Years.
COVID or maybe
Yes.
before, a long time. And you have two of the cutest little boys I've ever seen.
Thank you. They're
How old?
getting big on me.
Yeah, how old are they?
Um, Almost 14 and almost 10.
Gosh.
Yeah, crazy ages. I love it, but it's a lot.
No, do they get along?
Yes, they're very, very close, but it's like WrestleMania and World War III in my house every day. Like
All
they
boys.
pummel each other and cry about it and then get over it. And you can see them like playing video games together most of the time.
I
So,
think boys are really good in that way because they're not as emotional as us girls, where like
yes.
they like duke it out and then move on.
Yes,
That's
for
awesome.
sure.
That's awesome. So, okay, when I first reached out to you about coming on here, one of the things you said to me, and I kind of want to open with this and share with people because I think it's so important to recognize like the value that we have from our experiences. You said to me, "Oh, I don't really have a full-time business anymore, so I don't know if I have value to add." And I was like, "Girl, you absolutely do." So let's talk a little bit about because you ran your own business full-time for years and had an extremely successful digital product business. So tell us a little bit about how that started. How did you even get into one, having your own business, but two, getting into the digital product space?
Sure.
Because, sorry, I want you to answer, but I do want to point out you really got into it before it was super popular. Like now I feel like everybody's in the digital product space, but you really kind of started before everybody even really knew what that was.
Yeah. And I got started quite by accident. I've always been a creative person, but I'm not necessarily artistic. I've been in property management for like at that point I'd been in property management about I don't know, 11 or 12 years, something like that. And I thought, well, I'm going to start a credit repair company because I followed a couple of influencers during like that peak. And so I started a credit repair company and I ran that for, I don't know, actively about 6 months or so. But around like month two, one of my mentors at the time had said, you need an ebook. And well, let me back up just a little bit. Before that, I had built my own website during my course of learning how to create my business. And so I created my own website, and a couple of people were like, hey, can you create me one too? And so I did that, and I had never created a website a day in my life. I did not consider myself a techie person at all. But they were like, "Can you?" I was like, "Sure." It's going to be super basic, but it'll get you what you need. So I did like three or four websites, and then I found out that I needed this ebook. Somebody said, "You need an ebook," and all the ebooks that I kept buying looked like just book reports. They didn't look like a book.
Mhm.
It looked like a Word document, and that was it. And I was like, I can make this look prettier. And I learned about Canva. And so I redesigned this ebook in Canva and started offering it to my clients, my credit repair clients, um, at no charge, just to help them in their credit repair journey. And a couple of my classmates, they said, well, can we buy that ebook and sell it to our people too, or give it to our people too? And I thought, well, yeah, but it's going to cost you, And so $30, $50 didn't matter. I learned that Canva, you could share these templates and you could share, make it once and share it a million times. And it was fantastic. I thought, oh, wow, this is great. And so I started selling ebooks about credit repair. I already knew so much about credit repair, and I just started creating all these ebooks. I think I landed on 13 or 14 ebooks that I wrote by the time I got done. I had created 2 years worth of social media content, 12 months of newsletters, kids books, kids coloring books that were credit repair related. So everything was in that specific niche. I expanded into teaching people about digital marketing. I had coached and mentored about digital marketing in a very general sense, not just credit repair. Um, and it just spread like wildfire. Like I went from a 9 to 5 making $15 an hour to one of the plaques that one of my business friends got me. I made $100,000 in 117 days
Wow.
out of nowhere, and quit my full-time job to pursue full-time digital marketing 6 months into starting my business that was supposed to be credit repair, but went into digital products and digital marketing very specifically with zero experience. Had to just learn it all myself, and wow, the things I learned, it was crazy. But it all happened very, 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 very quickly. And I did that full time for about 3 years. So yeah, it was a roller coaster. It was a wild ride.
So, okay, so you mentioned the money because you made a lot of money very quickly.
Yeah.
So, do you remember the first month that you made like more money than you had ever seen through a 9 to 5? And if you don't have to share the numbers if you don't want, but I would like you to share a little bit like what that felt like when you realized, because like when you realized that you could create this and create
Yeah.
something bigger than what you had, previously had experience with. Because one of the biggest things with entrepreneurship is like this ladder of believability, right? Like,
Yes.
and just believing like, okay, I can make this money. So tell me that, like that month when you were like,
Yeah.
holy cow.
So I'm gonna probably gonna get a little emotional because here I was just starting my business. I was on food stamps and my kids were on Medicaid, and I was shopping at Goodwill for their clothes for that season. And I was, like I said, making $15 an hour working in property management. I'd been in the industry for, like I said, like 12 years, but I didn't like there was no upward movement for me. I got kind of stuck. Um, and I manifested. And I know like that sometimes sounds a little hokey and a little like into the woo, and I'm not that girl. Like I don't have crystals all over my house or like anything, but I just fed into it a little bit and it was kind of fun. And that's kind of where I got my business name from, actually, was the manifestation number of 1111.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Okay. Which is cool
yes,
because, I do think believability is like you have to believe
you have to
something.
believe it
You have
first.
to. Yeah.
Yes. So I very specifically, I think on month 4 of running my business, I maybe month 5, I wrote down like these are the things I'm going to do, right? Or I actually, I've had I intentionally practice gratitude. That's something that's like very, very important to me. Even if it's, and I say that I use this as an example kind of often, but like, even if it's just like, I find the closest spot at the grocery store. I'm like, thank you, God, for everything. I don't have to walk all the way across the parking lot at dark with all the birds everywhere, because here in Texas, we've got these really creepy uh, blackbirds. They're not ravens or anything. What are they? Crackles. And they're like swarm the parking lots at dusk. And it's like so scary. So sometimes when I'm going to the grocery store, I'm like, thank you, God. Like I didn't have to walk through all the birds. Like I get it. Like it's so trivial. It's so stupid. But just those, having gratitude for the simple things helps you be grateful for those bigger things. So for me, here I said, I'm going to write it down. And whatever you manifest, you have to be willing to work for. It doesn't just magically come out of this like sky. It's not just this, okay, I said it, so it's going to happen. you still have to be willing to work for it. And you still have to remain grateful while it's happening to you. So I wrote down the things that I was willing to do to get to the end result of what I wanted. And one of those items that I wrote down that day on that piece of paper, and I have it here somewhere, I meant to have it ready. Um, but it said I'm going to have a 10K month. And I had no reason to believe that I was going to make $10,000 because I think the most I had ever made at that point was maybe four or five. I think that month before, like month four, I think I made like four or five. And that was like, wow, you know? Um, so month six, five or six, I made $17,000 selling digital products that I created once and sold over and over and over again. And the people who purchased it from me got to sell it over and over and over again and make their money back that fast. And that's why it worked. It worked because everyone was using my products and making money from them. And so it was basically, this is the girl math, it was basically a free purchase from me
Yeah.
because they were going to turn around and make money from it. And everyone benefited. And so that's why it worked so well.
And it had a true ripple effect. I mean, the impact had a true ripple effect,
Mhm.
right? Because
Yeah.
people who don't have a digital product in their business, but they offer some sort of service like credit repair.
Hmm.
When you offer a service coming from somebody with a marketing agency, it is truly
Yes.
still trading your time for money. I mean,
Hmm.
yes, it's much bigger amounts than what maybe you worked hourly for somewhere, but you're
Yeah.
still trading your time for money. And adding a digital product, what it allows you to do is generate income when you're not working.
Yeah. And there's so many people. I think another aspect that made it somewhat successful, well, not somewhat, it was successful,
Really successful.
um, was that a lot of people are scared of credit repair and for good reason in some cases. But with a digital product, they got to learn about credit repair and realize, hey, this is a big job. Like, this is a lot of work. I don't want to do it myself. Now you look like the expert on the topic, and I can trust you. And we all know marketing is like no trust. Once somebody likes you, knows you, and trusts you, they will buy in and they will continue to buy in for as long as they have that like no trust. And that's a very, very simple building block of marketing that has always been like, that's a fundamental that like goes back years and years. This is before digital marketing, even, you know? Um, and I hounded on that so much. Like, if they like, know, and trust you, they will buy from you over and over again. And part of that became I started telling my story. I started, leading with intention. I started um, showing results, and people started to like, know, and trust me, and they bought in. And then they built their own like, know, and trust with their own clients, and it was a snowball. Um, I have a couple of clients or previous clients that they reached out to me. One of them just reached out to me like 2 weeks ago and said, "I know that you're no longer in business." She said, "But your business name is still in my ebooks, and your legacy still is carrying on." And that just meant so much to me, because while it was only a few years, what I did is still impacting communities right now that need financial literacy. And that means so much to me. So, so much to me.
And that right there is the proof that like you have so much value. Like truly. And I know that sometimes when we feel you're going to make me because I'm a crier.
Me too. I'm sorry.
Um,
It's
but
just so important.
and it is because, you know, when we have to take a step back, and we'll get into that, kind of what happened with 11/11 and where you're at now. But when we take a step back personally, it can feel like so much failure. But truly, it isn't because it is really just a pivot. I mean, me and my own business. We were talking about this right before we started recording, right?
Yeah.
There are plenty of people who I think probably look at the fact that I don't run my marketing agency anymore. and offboarded most of my clients, and they look at it as, oh, well, that failed or this or that. No, I made that decision because of my children. The amount of time and stress and overwhelm that went into that business.
Mhm.
And I had tried to replace myself. It just didn't work very well because of, my standards and my attention to detail and I had an incredible team. So I
Sure.
don't want to take away. I had an incredible team that worked for me, but the things that were still on my plate, like replacing and finding somebody to take those over was incredibly difficult.
Mhm.
And I had a really difficult time fully taking a step back because it did feel like failure to me. It
Mhm.
doesn't now, like I'm totally okay with it now, but in the moment it did. And and there is so much power in being able to be like, you know what, I have to take a step back. I have to pivot. I might have to do this temporarily. There might be a stepping stone. And then when you launch forward into whatever is next, you come with a freaking lot of experience because of the lessons you learned.
Yeah.
So, you have so much value on so many levels. So let's talk a little bit about what happened. Why you don't have 1111 or why you don't run it fully anymore. Why did you take a step back?
It's definitely multifaceted, multi-layered, very complicated. It's not a simple answer, unfortunately. There were a lot of things that all happened all at once. Um, I went through a divorce. I moved close to my kid's dad, who I didn't have a very good relationship with. We've since repaired it, but like I had to move back close to him before we actually like worked through um some of the stuff we were going through, and now we have a fantastic co-parenting relationship, but it took a lot of intention and work to make that happen. And so moving 6 minutes up the road from him like was hard, and it sucked, and I was just like, this is great for my kids, but and like I went through that. I also like had made some decisions with people in business that no longer really served me. It was nothing inherently bad happened, but it wasn't progressing and moving forward. I kept throwing money at problems instead of like, because I just couldn't like find my footing in finding the solution, and so I kept throwing money at it, and that where I was throwing money was not producing results. But also, I think most of all, AI came on the scene really hard and fast and hot and heavy. And it was I couldn't learn it fast enough to get ahead of it. And because it's a digital world and AI is all digital, that kind of deflated my balloon a little bit, you know? And in hindsight, I realize AI cannot replace me, cannot replace a human element of marketing and connecting. But in that moment, it freaked me out. Um, and it just got really, really overwhelming because I was like, everyone is expecting me to already, my products were very affordable. That was another key part of my success. But then they could find it cheaper, faster, even more affordable, basically free. I mean, the ChatGPT is free, you know?
Mhm.
Um, and they thought they could do it better and cheaper and faster. And that, of course, everyone in business wants that, none of us want to spend all this money. Um, but I think another very small element of the demise of everything was that I learned after I had started my business that I have ADHD. And then a year later, I found out that I'm on the autism spectrum. And I didn't know that burnout is really, really extreme for people who are neurodivergent. And that's me. And so I think that all of those external things and all those like rapid changes, they got to me and I got burned out and I just stopped. I just froze. I was so um executive dysfunction is a huge part of ADHD and sometimes even autism. And I just, like that fight, flight, or freeze, I just froze and I just completely stopped. Um, I froze and stopped to the point that one of my followers did a police wellness check on me, and I had a police officer at my door wondering if I was okay because I had like just stopped posting for like a week. And that was not like me. I was posting like 4, 5, 6 times a day. And I just stopped because I just couldn't handle anything else. Um, and I'm grateful that somebody cared that much, but it also felt like a huge invasion of privacy. And I got really, really scared and nervous. And that was like another reason why I just like stopped because I was like, whoa, like if they could find me that fast, nobody knew. I mean, they knew I lived in Waco, Texas, but like nobody knew my address. But there was a police officer at my address and it freaked me out. And it just, I was like, whoa. So I've been like super careful about what I post and how I post, and that wasn't like me. So I changed how I interacted with my audience, and I think that that paused things. It put a strain on things, and I haven't really learned how to navigate that since then. That really, although I understand that person probably had really good intentions, that kind of was like the icing on the cake for me. I was like, whoa, like this is too personal, like too scary.
Yeah.
And that ultimately kind of led me to like completely stopping. Like a few months later, I went back to a 9 to 5.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that would be terrifying. When we, build personal brands and put ourselves out there online, we open ourselves up to a lot. And
Yeah.
I think that when you, like for somebody like you were so active, like for years without any sort of incident like that. You
Yeah.
kind of get like you're so far removed from something like that happening, you don't realize necessarily that it can, and then it's like a
Yes.
huge shock. And I feel you on like the frozen thing because when I really started making the decision to like step away from my marketing agency, but I wasn't really sure how I was going to like offboard people and how I was going to like deal
Yes.
with all the clients. And um it felt like what I would imagine almost like a PTSD episode. Like it was like just very like I felt so overwhelmed. It felt like I was sort of like frozen in like this traumatic episode. Where like no, nothing was physically happening to me, but like my own
Mhm.
mind, and I was totally burnt out. I had been really, really burnt out. And so okay. You had and I don't we don't have to get into the weeds of like personal things, but you had a lot of stuff happening at once. And I think that sometimes like so in the last it has been for me about 8 years since I like worked full time for somebody else. But there have definitely been times where I've thought about it because just from the standpoint, and I'm really big on like time and money and like, just all of those freedoms that come along with working for yourself. But I have had moments where I've thought about going back just for the sake of like I can show up and I don't have to, take responsibility. Like when you're responsible for paying somebody's salary, that's a huge pressure that I don't think people really understand, like um
Don't do it. It's a trap.
oh yeah, no. And listen, I won't. I always make the joke now like I would probably live under a bridge before I went back to working a 9 to 5. But but over the years, I mean, I've definitely had my moments of just like, at least I didn't have the like same responsibility and pressure that I have as a business owner. But you had a lot of stuff going on and it was like everything was happening at once. Um how do you feel that the people you surround yourself with, so whether it's, personal relationships, friendships, the environment you live in, like familial things, all of those relationships, how do you feel like they impact like a business, having a business, running a business, being a mom?
Yeah. Um, it's gonna get real personal because that is, I mean, I know you said we don't have to get into it too deep, but ultimately, the month I started my business, I had gotten married. And um that person was very supportive and very encouraging, and I think that attributed to some of the success at the time, but then that person also became very egotistical and thought that they could spend all my money and had a lot of demands on my time. Um, but like played the supportive card publicly, but personally they were jealous. And that was really difficult to navigate. And they literally said, "Well, you won't be anything without me." And then when I got divorced, slowly everything kind of came to an end. So then I had this moment like, oh, well, maybe they were the reason I was successful. Um, and that was like a weird time because I had never felt more supported and loved and cared for in that moment. But really, they they threatened to come for everything that I had built when they decided they were done being supportive. And that was a huge wake up call. It was like, whoa, I can't ever put that level of trust in that kind of, I mean, don't get me wrong, there was plenty of support everywhere. When you ask like where did I have support, I had support from clients, I had support from friends, I had support from my family, I had support from my spouse, I had support from my kids. It was not just this one person,
Hmm.
but I like was kind of not led to believe, but like told that it was just because of them. And I had support from a lot of different places, but I don't think I really understood that or saw it right when everything started falling apart in a relationship wise, right? But also, that relationship was only a couple years total, from the time we met to the time we married to the time we divorced. I mean, it was like 2.5 years, like the fastest 2.5 years of my life, you know? Crazy. And it was like, whoa, okay, that was like whiplash. I went from top of the mountain to deep in the valley, right? Really, really quickly because I never thought that that was ever going to be a thing. Um, but I will say, now I still have support from a lot of different places. So it's not a matter of support for whether or not something's successful. At the end of the day, had I not had anybody supporting me, I still would have done what I did because I wanted to help people. And that was my only mission. My only goal was I wanted to help people. I wanted to create financial literacy. I spent my entire life in poverty. And then I was like in the system of poverty still. Like I said earlier, I was, and my kids were on food stamps and Medicaid, and I was shopping at Goodwill for their winter jackets. I mean, thank God there were resources available to me. And it was a very short time, 6 months, it was all, thank goodness. But, you know, even that was a level of support. I mean, I started my business while I was on food stamps.
Hmm.
People forget that like some people who are on these services, and this is like even, what a time to be talking about this, right? During a government shutdown when everything's paused and stopped and, in limbo. I was on those services and started a business that became wildly successful and got off of those services just as fast as I got on them. And that was the only time in my life as an adult that I needed that. But I did need it for 6 months. Otherwise, my kids would have gone hungry. They would have gone without health care. And so I had support even in that moment. being able to start my business, having, I mean, I told the story, I had like, I don't know, like $16 in my bank account when I started my business, you know,
You know
and
what's
it
incredible?
grew to $500,000 in 3 years.
Yeah, and you know what's so incredible about that too is I think especially the world we live in, the digital world where every time you get online, somebody is selling something to teach you something,
Mhm,
to do something, and I think all of those resources are incredible. But I think that when we're in those valleys, sometimes it feels like, well, I don't have enough to create, or I don't have enough
mhm,
to go do. And unfortunately, we do live in a society where we have really been conditioned to believe that we have to depend on other people for our success, for our happiness,
mhm,
for our, everything.
mhm.
And that I think that's the most powerful part of your story. Like you truly started with nothing and built something incredible. And while you don't it's not currently what you're doing, you gained invaluable experience. So as you go
Absolutely.
forward, things will be different. So with that being said, looking back, what is one thing you would have done differently in your business if you had the chance to go back?
I would have gone to therapy a lot sooner.
Amen. Amen.
And I don't say that unironically. Like, if you are in business for yourself, you should also be in therapy. Like, absolutely. Like, it is such an emotional um mind cluster. Like, I mean, it's your mindset has to stay in a certain place all the time, and the relationships you're juggling, the disappointments that happen, the mountaintops and the valleys, and how quickly that can happen back to back. If you're in business for yourself, you need a therapist. So I probably should have been in therapy much sooner. Um, but also, I would say that I would have not let someone else talk me out of my success. I think that when enough people tell you, or the right people tell you, um, to be humble, oh, it could all be taken away tomorrow. Be humble. Eventually that eats at you a little bit. And I think that's what happened with me a little bit. Um, I got really excited about making $30,000 in a month. And somebody said, well, it could all be gone tomorrow. You should humble yourself. And it was like, ugh, sucker punch. Like, no, it's okay. Yes, I made $30,000, but how many other lives did I impact by doing that? By creating that thing that benefited someone else's life. Like, I don't have to be that. The only thing that I have to be humble to is God. That's it. Like, no, I did that. I did that. And I'm proud of that. And I'm excited for that. And it was a very, very good thing that I did. I didn't, it was, it was true to me and true to my mission. And it helped impact people's lives in a positive way. Why do I have to sit back and be humble about that?
And you deserve
I
to be
did that.
celebrated. And I think it's harder when it's somebody who should be celebrating you. You know what I mean? And the truth is that most people they project onto us.
Yes.
So if they're insecure or if they don't believe that they could make this
Mhm.
happen or you know whatever the case may be, they're projecting onto you. Something I tell my kids and I've told them their whole lives. It is never about you. If somebody is rude, if somebody is jealous, if somebody it's never about you. It's about them.
Mhm.
And it's about like whatever they're thinking, whatever they're going through. And
And therapy would have reminded me that. So I should have been in therapy sooner.
it's so funny you say that because I always say that entrepreneurship is so much more of like a personal development and a spiritual journey. Like,
It
I
is.
think people who look at business owners, they think like, oh, they learned all these business skills. And it's like, yeah, we do along the way. But the real test, because being an entrepreneur, it just stretches you beyond anything.
You meet yourself somewhere that most people never get to meet themselves.
Oh, yeah.
You have to have a certain level of self-awareness that most people cannot grasp. So when you ask me like how do people around you impact your business? I mean, if you're not around like-minded people, you will suffer. You will suffer immensely. You cannot be successful with the naysayers. You cannot be successful with the people who have limited beliefs. You cannot be successful with people around you that cannot fathom impacting people on the greatest scale that you can accomplish or making the kind of money that you can possibly make. Because without impact, you won't make the money, not consistently, you know? And so if your mission is aligned with your purpose and you don't allow that outside noise to take over, you can go as far as you think you can, as far as you're willing to work for it, you know, and it is a lot of work. I mean, none of this happens. I know I talked about, oh, I just kind of fell into this. Okay, I fell into it, but I had to work my booty off to make it actually successful. I could have stopped with making $300 websites,
Yeah. The path
but
open.
I
I
was
mean,
like,
that's what fell
nope.
into your lap. I say that all the time because um, in my agency, people would say to me, well, how do you have so many clients who are like in the NFL? Like, what's your connection? I'm always like, oh, it fell into my lap. Well, one person, the path for one person opened. That's the part that
Yes.
fell into my lap. But then I worked every day, improved myself. And,
It was
you
very
know,
intentional,
yeah,
like intentional with how you moved forward.
well, right. And when you move forward in like true hard work and you run a very ethical business, word of
Yes.
mouth spreads like wildfire. You know what I mean? Like organic marketing wins every time. So
Absolutely.
it does take a lot of work. Okay, so you are back at a 9 to 5. Um,
Yes.
but now that I've gotten to know you, I know that you will not be there forever. I know you are not somebody who will ever be satisfied with a 9 to 5. You also are incredibly, incredibly creative. So I actually think I'm sure I've shared this with you. I am pretty sure I have undiagnosed ADHD. I think that is just like the mind of a creative person. And we kind of have like the squirrel attention sometimes and have like 5,000 business ideas in every 30-minute or 30-second thought. But what do you see for yourself next? Like, what is next for Desiree?
Well, honestly, because of my 9 to 5, I am in a very good position right now. I'm relatively satisfied and happy at the moment. And so right now, I'm really grateful that I just get to focus on keeping my creativity a hobby that I don't monetize. I've never done that before. I've never not monetized. Don't get me wrong. I'm still so right now I'm making t-shirts and rhinestone hats, and it's more, I don't make a lot of money at it, but I have to sell it in order to buy more supplies and things. But I'm super affordable, and like it's literally just having a hobby again to feed that creative side of me. So like I don't have these grand business plans today.
Hmm.
However, right now I am feeding my creative side in the most gentle, like calm, take on what I want to take on, not take on what I don't want to take on. And like that's so freeing after spending years like fighting for something. Now I just get to be whimsical. I just get to be fun. I just get to say yes to the things I want to say yes to and no to the things I don't want to say yes to. And they're so freeing after being so in demand for so long. And I have, the 9 to 5 I have, I'm making, great money, more money than I've ever made in a 9 to 5. And so right now I'm just breathing. And it sounds so
No, I
contrite
think
or
it sounds
simple. I don't
amazing.
know. But I spent, I think, almost 2 years in such a deep depression from losing my business that I couldn't see the light. I couldn't see the way out. I couldn't see how going back to a 9 to 5 was a positive thing. I couldn't see how, like, I want to say losing my business, but I didn't really lose it. I just kind of quit it. Um, I couldn't see how that could ever be a positive thing. But now, going back to a 9 to 5, I actually, I had never made it past the assistant manager position, and now I'm in middle management. And I was only able to do that because of my business, because I learned so many skills that now I can use in this middle management position. But now I'm learning skills in this middle management position that I realize I probably could have made my business more successful had I known these things. So right now, while I'm not content being here, I'm learning a lot that I know is going to make me successful with whatever new venture does come along. I've got a million and two ideas because that's what ADHD is all about. But I don't have a specific plan today. Right now, I make t-shirts, I make hats, having a lot of fun. Um, but I don't have this big grand plan today. Just trying to get my kids grown up. I'm trying to pay the bills and trying to find that like I said, that whimsy that, when I first started the business, it was fun. I want to have fun while I'm working, and when you're working for other people, you don't have fun. Nothing about working for a corporate entity is fun. I don't have very much fun in my day to day, but I get to come home and I come in my she shed and my little craft shack and I get to have fun and make something beautiful and get to let my creative side go. And, that's enough today. Will it be enough forever? No, probably not.
But it speaks to the seasons of life because it's low stress, right?
Yes.
Like you get
Yeah.
to leave work at work. I mean, I'm sure you go through stressful things during the workday, but
Oh, I don't get to leave work at work. I'm on call 24/7.
oh geez. Yeah,
I know.
that's property
One
management
of these days.
one of these days. But it's about the seasons in life, and so I love that for you. And we definitely mourn our businesses. I had so one of my business mentor, when I decided to walk away, and she's an incredible mentor and wildly successful, and she was all for it. Like she has been amazing with me walking away from my business. But something she said to me, because I went through a period like that where I just kind of couldn't find it was almost like I lost my ambition, for lack of better words. Like, um, and it felt like a depression at sometimes. And she had said to me, she said, even though you don't want that anymore, it's still like your child. So I think you're mourning your business.
Yeah, it
And
was my baby.
it's a very emotional when you put so much like blood, sweat, and tears into something. Um,
Mhm.
all right, well, to wrap things up, I have to ask you, if there's a mom listening who maybe had a business and went back to a 9 to 5, or maybe is in a 9 to 5 now, but knows that it's not what they want forever, what is
Mhm.
one piece of advice that you would give them?
Pray without ceasing. What's for you will be for you. Whether you believe in a God, the universe, a power greater than yourself. For me, it's power greater than myself. If there is a vision for it and you work towards it, you will see it come to fruition and it will be way more successful than you could ever imagine. As a mom, I know that I cannot just like quit my 9 to 5 tomorrow and try to chase this dream. Okay. Like that's not, I live in reality. Sometimes business coaches will paint this picture that it's all sunshine, rainbows, unicorns, and sunshine. No, like sometimes when you are working that 9 to 5, that is the very best thing that you could ever do for your kids, ever do for yourself. In that moment, just like Erica, you said, like it's a season. Um, don't let that season convince you that that has to be your lifetime. It's okay to embrace the moment that you're in right now. And, I being on the other side of that morning of that business and being on the other side of going back to 9 to 5, I've got in my she shed right here hanging up my resignation letter from that last job saying that, because I framed it because I thought I'm never going back to a 9 to 5. I was so adamant and I held on longer than I should have, going into debt for it, trying to hang on to it. Um, I don't regret it. It happened, it needed to happen, that was fine. But like I went into debt for this dream, right? But also now knowing that like I would do it all over again in a heartbeat, but I also know that I can only accomplish what I'm willing to work for. And right now, when I leave my 9 to 5, I'm exhausted. I don't have a whole lot of myself to give to a business right now. And it would be wildly unfair for me to try to start something full time again, knowing that I've got full time hours, well, more than full time hours at this time. I'm a salary, so they just use and abuse that sometimes. Um, I have good work life balance most of the time, but it happens. So it would be unfair to any clients or customers that I would have to say, oh, I'm going to jump into this full time. And I think it's okay to say, this is a hobby. I don't have to monetize it. You don't have to monetize every hobby that you come up with or any idea that you ever come up with. Um, B, like there's more than one way to like skin a cat. Like you can do something part-time and make a ton of money. I was part-time for 6 months and made more money than I'd ever made in my life. And also like only you know when it's time to move on from something, good or bad. Don't let other people make that decision for you. And don't let guilt and shame direct your steps. I wish I would have known that then, because I had a lot of guilt about walking away, had a lot of shame about this loss of business. But I guarantee, like, if I started it all up again in a heartbeat, like, people would come back. But I just don't have the time to dedicate to it. And I don't think that's fair to say, oh, well, I'm back, but not really be there. Um, and so I think it's okay to trust yourself and what you're actually capable of. But also it's okay to reach a little higher and try to do more. You set your own limit because a power greater than ourselves is conspiring in your favor and they want what you want to work for. So whatever you're
I,
willing to work for, that's what you're going to get.
I really love that. You are amazing. And this conversation was incredibly, incredibly full of value. And I think if there's one thing that moms can relate to, it is, being in different seasons and what's right for one person at one point in time is not right for another. And I think it is really easy to look at somebody's chapter 30 and compare it to your chapter 3. So, Des, I really appreciate the conversation. I really
Thank you
appreciate
for
you
having
being
me.
here. Yes, this was amazing. And for all of you mamas watching, if you enjoyed this and you would like to connect with Des, I will put her socials in the description of this video and make sure that you like and subscribe as we continue talking to mamas in literally every step of their journey. So, thanks so much.